Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast, March live stream, March 2025. A lot going on these days. Welcome, Darth. Welcome, Nelson. Welcome, Jesse. We are waiting on a few others who will likely join us here in the next hour or two, depending on how long we go. So, guys, how is everyone doing today? And what's on your minds?
I'll go
Jump
first.
in there, Darth.
Yeah, I'll go first. It's been crazy with the market. Today I'm going to be probably buying some stocks planned for Monday because I have to do a 12-hour shift. But I'm going to hit the gym a little bit, do some meal prepping, and just get ready for the week. I got a lot of interviews coming up for nurse practitioner jobs, so I'm trying to get mentally focused for that as well.
Cool. What's up with you, Jesse?
Hey, just join the weekend. Same as Darth. Probably look at what I'm going to do this week in the market. It's been pretty choppy. Looks like on Friday the small cap IWM did the old death cross, and just going to have to manage some option positions.
And Nelson, what's on your mind?
Well, I have a buddy who came up and is visiting me this weekend, so I get to show him all of the outstanding sights of Edmonton. It will be literally better than meeting Batman.
So the West Edmonton Mall.
The West Edmonton Mall. We did that yesterday, actually. So I'm kind of struggling with ideas a little bit. There's, I don't know what we'll do. Wander the streets.
I mean, there's always an Oilers game, right?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Well, that was last night. Yeah, we didn't go last night, but they played the Kraken, and I think they won. So
yeah, okay. Nice. Yeah, I haven't been following hockey that much this season. Just been focused on other things, I guess. Yeah, so I guess one of the first things I wanted to talk about, and as you know from the thumbnail I created, extra special thanks to Kelly for giving me permission to use her Tesla in the thumbnail. But Tesla's been a pretty hot topic lately in the news with the ridiculous protests. And I mean, Tesla's stock has been dropping, and people are just doing retarded things, vandalizing Teslas, vandalizing them. Like, do these people not know that Teslas have about 300 cameras? Well, okay, maybe not quite 300, but so many cameras, and so many people have just been easily identified vandalizing, and I'm sure many of them have been charged. Hopefully they all just charge them all, and right, this is destruction of personal property. And I let's just go around and let's get some thoughts on anything Tesla related, I guess. Again, go for it, Darth.
So I'll bring up a few things. One, to the people that are in love with Yield Max, TSLY is getting killed. And I sold it for a profit at the right time, and I'm probably not going to be buying or not buying for a while, but I've been buying the Curve Invest TSLP, which is kind of like a covered call strategy, a little bit more protective. But Tesla's been down. In my IRA, I've been buying Tesla. And there's a lot of panic selling. I could see a lot of panic selling that's going on with the market, a lot of negative attention, and I'm capitalizing on the opportunities. There's with Tesla, I mean, I think it's a good company. I do believe that people should have hybrid cars in Ohio. I mean, we were just discussing snow and everything. I drive a Toyota Camry, but my future car could be a hybrid, and Tesla is just electric, and there's just a lot of nut jobs out there that are creating negative attention. The media is going after them. I myself, I've been buying in my IRA, so I think Tesla is a good company, a good up and coming company. Well, it already is, one of the mags, but there's a lot of potential with Tesla. So for me, the more negative attention, the better, because I've been buying it in my IRA.
Welcome, Boomer. Welcome, Alex. We're just obviously talking about Tesla, as everyone has seen the thumbnail. And again, thanks to Kelly for letting me use her Tesla in that thumbnail.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Let's just jump in here and get your thoughts. I see we've got Get Rich Brothers here as well. So, Ryan, we're just talking about Tesla and the craziness that's been going on with the vandalization and all of that. So, yeah,
these are all short-term things, and I
anyone
think
want to jump in and
sure, yeah, Dorothy, I think you said it already. A lot of these things like vandalization and whatnot, it's just these are just short-term opportunities if you're and a lot of the things as far as, I mean, not to jump ahead, but even tariffs and things like this that are causing a lot of choppiness in the market. I'm just looking at it as buying opportunities for stocks that you like. So not too worried from a long-term perspective for any of this.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about Tesla. I think it was just the price compressing down, filling that gap. I mean, we're already where we 239 and back to closed at 249. So it's seen some movement. The one funny thing that I read the other day, I think it's going around Twitter and it's been on Reddit. There's some people out there that that don't like Tesla. They're encouraging everyone to buy puts at the $100 strike price because they think it will cause the Tesla stock to crash and that Elon has to pay the money out of his own pocket. So I say, hey, go buy those $100 puts and with the 1 week expiry and see how that works out for you.
Boomer, jump in here.
Yeah,
I
ultimately,
saw a guy anonymously donated a bunch of Tesla Cybertrucks to a police department in California. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was pretty cool. You could find it on X. I just think for me, of course, we're not giving financial advice, but this is a buying opportunity for a company that has serious potential.
Oh, I agree, Darth. I mean, if you take the cars out of it, look at everything else that underneath that Tesla. You got humanoid robots. There's 3 companies competing for that are close to being in production. You got SpaceX. You got Starlink. Starlink hooked up with United Airlines to provide internet, and now with T-Mobile. So you got to, and then the Tesla battery packs for energy. I think you got to look beyond the cars a little bit with Tesla. You got to really zoom out to get the true value of Tesla.
but Starlink and SpaceX are not part of Tesla.
Oh, they're not. I thought that
No, they're all independent companies of each other.
But Elon the other day was saying. Elon the other day was saying
Elon owns.
Yes, they are, and he was touting it the other day that that's not to fear the price of Tesla because that's going to affect it according to Elon. So I don't know, maybe he's got something planned.
I actually tweeted about something like that recently. I was like, what's stopping Elon from ever just consolidating all of his companies into one giant public company, like incorporating SpaceX and or everything else just into Tesla itself? I mean, that would create tremendous long-term valuation there. But as of right now, it hasn't happened. And I don't know if he ever plans on doing it, but
Well, he doesn't own Tesla. He owns 13% of Tesla. It's
sure, but like
a public
just
company. He can't just roll his private companies into it.
he could also just take those companies public though as well. Yeah.
Correct. They would be independent private companies, independent public companies, independent from Tesla.
Honestly, they have a pretty strong board of directors. So, I mean, they're pretty knowledgeable. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens as well. But man, Tesla, there's just a lot of opportunities. I think the smartest thing he didn't he move his headquarters out of California and go into Texas? I mean, that was a smart economic decision. I mean, I can't tell you how many people, YouTubers or people that are making serious money that have moved out of California. So I think that's a huge move that he did for his company as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, by far.
I think the big issue with Tesla is that you have a CEO who was a part-time CEO before, because you had SpaceX and you had all these other things that he was interested in, and now he's even more of a part-time CEO because he's doing all this Doge stuff with the government. And if you're a Musk believer, his attention is just incredibly divided, even more so than what it was before. And I think that's a big reason for the stock selling off. For me personally, I would never buy it. It's not what I do. It's not what I like to. It would keep me up at night. It's just the risk on it is way too high. But there's a kind of shoot himself in the foot syndrome that he's got going on, that I don't think you can ignore if you're a shareholder.
Yeah, the way I look at it, if I try to look at it from an impartial, take my own personal thing out of it and just try to look at it from an impartial standpoint. And I hate to do it because it's just overly simplistic at times, but at its current price, or its current PE ratio, it still seems like it's tremendously overvalued. And I get that with high growth tech companies that a PE ratio is sometimes completely meaningless because of its long-term potential, and I totally understand that. And denying that exists with Tesla is kind of naive. It obviously has a lot of long-term potential, but in the short term, for me, with everything you just said, Nelson, with him himself, and its current valuation, I'm also probably waiting a little bit just to see how things play out. And if I were to be looking for an entry point, I would just look at its technicals and just see when it's at a key support level, when it's near a key long-term moving average level, and use that as an entry point, even if it's not a great long-term target, or that's what I would do. I have no issues with anyone investing in it. I would just be patient and look for a good entry point. That's all I would do.
Yeah, that's it. That sounds very reasonable to me too. And at the end of the day, investing is personal. Yeah. We have to make moves that kind of that get us in the right direction towards achieving our goals. And for me, Tesla is probably not something that would help me achieve my goals. My goals are dividend income focused and etc. But for the people on here and the people listening out there, then that might be different. And that's the fun of investing, is that it is so personal and you get to do whatever you want. Like Buffett says, it's your own painting, and you get to add red wherever you want, and that's what makes it fun.
I'm going to bring up.
I do want to bring up this comment. Even with vandalizing Tesla, it's dumb. It's Elon derangement syndrome. I have TSLL. I think it will make a turnaround. I think Starlink and SpaceX are great. It'll rebound. The media is the real virus. So, and I think that is probably part of it, or a big part of it. Again, everyone on X complains about legacy media, both in the US and in Canada. So I don't know. I guess any thoughts on that comment, or any replies to that comment from anyone?
I don't agree with that.
Vandalizing. Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't agree with that. Sorry, I don't agree with that. I think the legacy media is a lot more real than the stuff you find on X, these podcasts, which are insane. There's so much insane information on X and on some of these podcasts. The legacy media, if you strip out the evening shows, which are not news, they're all opinion shows, as they've all said in court when they've been sued. So from after dinner, those shows are not news, they're opinion. But the main legacy media is the only place you're going to get news. If there's an earthquake and you go on X, the news is coming from legacy media. Everyone else is just saying all this crazy, insane stuff. And so they are not the enemy. The enemy, with regards to information, the enemy are all these small people who just make up complete bullshit. It's utter crap. And I have no time for that. Honestly, I have no time for that.
See, I'll disagree with you. The mainstream media is the propaganda machine. I mean, look who owns the majority of the media within the United States. Look, I mean, it's the big companies that are pushing this agenda. So the mainstream media is totally the problem. I mean, they ran a smear campaign against Trump, and now that he won, now they're coming up with something else. Uh, it's ridiculous. I can't see how you can sit there and say that the media isn't the problem.
I can say, I mean, I think the small media, I think the small independent ones are a way bigger problem. Like these different podcasts,
You don't think that CNN is a problem?
Not compared to things like InfoWars and things like that, where like not a single word that comes out of the guy's mouth, he's nuts. Like that kind of stuff. If you compare those two,
CNN
I think
lies all the
I think there's a
time.
big difference. I think there's a big difference between the two. I think there's a big difference.
Well, I'm going to look at it from both sides because, like there'll be an earthquake and people will say the vaccine is what caused it. The COVID vaccine. There are people that are like, they're making money like Jackson Hinkle with misinformation in Israel and Palestine, the United States. But, there are nut jobs on both sides. I mean, I'm more conservative, but I do think Alex Jones is a weirdo. And there's people that are religious zealots that follow him. But at the same time, I mean, CNN is also, and some of those people on TV are almost promoting the vandalism out there. The View, those people are idiots. All right. First of all, they attack nurses. I'm a registered nurse. I have not forgot about how they have attacked nurses. They are delusional, and anybody that watches that show, their IQ is probably dropping right now. I don't know how anybody watches that show. The other thing is, yes, there is CNN. I would consider some of the mainstream media as the enemy towards Elon Musk and Tesla. It seems like they're almost promoting the vandalism out there. I mean, if you look at the Jimmy Kimmel show or like Walls, now all of a sudden he's saying, "Oh, I was joking about that comment with the stock." I mean, the dude's pension is part of Tesla. He was exposed on X with that. I mean, I do think that there's both sides, but I think people had enough. And, I think Trump is a wild one. Don't get me wrong. I would much rather have another candidate. But I do think people had enough with the status quo, and that's why he won, like, significantly. They just had enough of the BS that people are spewing.
I'll pivot back to Tesla for a minute and just say that the up until sort of 6 months ago, probably the most likely buyer for a Tesla was someone who would maybe not vote for Trump. And now that Musk is so involved in the administration, I think it feels like a big betrayal for a lot of kind of people who sort of thought Musk was on their team, if you will. And now that he's kind of been, he's doing some things on X here and maybe, kind of having some opinions that a lot of people don't like. So essentially what he's doing is he's kind of alienated a lot of the customer base. And that could be a problem going forward. But at the same time, it's like, if you don't like the guy, I'm not sure how vandalizing someone's Tesla is really going to, accomplish anything besides one of those cameras catching you and getting you in trouble.
I think the vandalizing is overblown. I mean, there's literally millions of Teslas on the road, and there's probably hundreds of vandalizing situations. It's so people are acting like every Tesla's been vandalized. I think so. I think the vandalizing is getting a lot of press. It's in the news, heavily in the news, so it's not like it's being ignored by the mainstream media. And it's a tiny thing. What you said about their base, yeah, I mean their base, the original base of Tesla buyers were all kind of probably eco-friendly, left-leaning people who wanted an EV, and now his fanboy base are people who 5 years ago thought they were all his cars were gay and were ridiculous. And now suddenly they're all his fanboys. Not that any of them would buy one of his cars. They're all going to drive Ford F-150s with gigantic engines.
F-250s, buddy. F-250s.
F-250s, whatever they're called, giant trucks or Dodge Rams. His fanboy base now are not people who buy Teslas, and his old actual base are now people who drive Teslas because they like electric cars, but they hate him. So it's that's weighing on the stock. It's the most wild stock for a mega cap you'll ever see. This company's $1 trillion company that goes up and down by 50 to 100% is unreal.
Well, and I'm going to bring up.
Yeah, it's like 5% a
It's
day.
wild.
And I'm going to bring up
yeah.
Alexander's point too about the value of it. Even Elon said that Tesla is overvalued at certain times. The other thing is with Teslas, I mean, do we really need to buy a Tesla? A lot of people are buying the Cybertruck or Teslas for status. That's like people drinking Starbucks. So that's another thing about this company is, it's kind of a status thing. I mean, I don't really want to buy a Cybertruck. I think the car is ugly. I mean, it looks like one of those cars in the movie, the Terminator movies, and the intro in the movie. It just looks like, like it just doesn't appease to me. I'm more of a hybrid type car. I drive a Toyota. I'll probably always buy Toyotas. But that's another thing is, everybody wants to try to flex because they bought a Cybertruck or a Tesla. So that's another thing that I see going on is people are buying Teslas for status.
Let me jump in there real quick, Darth. About 3 weeks or a month ago, I test drove a couple of Toyota RAV4 hybrids. They are really nice vehicles. So that's just a little aside there, I guess. But I definitely.
Are you gonna get one? You gonna get one, Dave?
Well, as you know, my business, and I know you listened to the podcast I did with Willows and talking about reducing the cost of fuel. So, yeah, at some point down the road, whether it is the RAV4 hybrid or a Tesla, that's definitely in the medium term business plan, right? Of being able to basically slash my fuel expense off that line item, slash it in half or more, right?
Yeah, I think the hybrid makes more sense for most people. The electric car, you just don't get enough miles, and there's few. Depending on where you live, there's few and far between charging stations. The hybrid makes most sense. I mean, if you think about it, the hybrid technology has been around since the 60s. We've been using them on locomotive trains since early 50s, or actually mid 50s to 60s. So, I mean, that's all they are, is a big diesel generator that powers electric drive motors. So I don't know why we can't figure it out better for cars. I think more people would be apt to it than just all electric.
Yeah, the really nice selling point on those RAV4s, the salesman was telling me, he's like, you don't need to plug them in. The electric side charges from the ICE side. So while you're running in like gas engine mode, internal combustion engine, that's actually charging the electric side. So you never have to like stop to plug it in and wait for 20 minutes or 45 minutes for your vehicle to charge, which I thought was a great selling point.
Well, didn't originally the Prius, isn't that the concept behind it? It was a small engine that just powered the battery to where you didn't have to plug it in?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't really know the history of it, but I do know those RAV4s were really nice little vehicles, little like compact SUV type vehicles, right?
Yeah.
Are we on Tesla? Are we on Tesla the whole time? Can we pivot to running your business? How is that going?
We can pivot to that, but I do want to talk a little bit more about Tesla. I do like this comment. The right politically like the fact that Tesla is 100% American made, which I have also seen a lot of comments on X, or some comments on X, about, yes, it's made in America, but all the parts come from China, or the parts are sourced globally. So I don't know. I guess any thoughts on both those topics, the right being liking the American made fact, or the Tesla parts coming from all over the world?
Anyone parts come from all over the world, Dave. We've had that conversation before when it came to tariffs about how many times it crosses the U.S. and Canadian border to make a car. But there are, I mean, Honda here in Indiana, Honda just announced that they're adding another plant. They're supposed to start, I think, 3 years they're going to have it up and running. So that's 2 Honda plants we have now. So I guess you could say some Hondas are American made as well. I mean, at least American labor. I don't think you'll find a car that's 100% American made. I mean, parts come from all over.
Yeah, I bought a Honda about a year and a half ago, and it came from Birmingham, Alabama. So
yeah. I mean, but I don't think you could find 100%. You could find 100% American labor, but I don't think you could find 100% parts made in America.
No, I don't think so either.
I think with a lot of the components, especially the batteries and the metals that go into producing electric vehicles, I think it's going to be a tremendously long time, if probably never, before anything's be able to be fully sourced from America. It's probably not possible.
Probably not.
Well, I'm assuming finance guy will say that he makes the car by himself, so he buys American stuff. I'm sure he'll make an X post on there.
Let's not go down that road.
Next time I should wear an outfit to do a parody thing with him. I'll come on here. I actually have a sweater vest that like almost looks like that, so I would definitely come on here and do that next time.
All right, yes, we need that.
I will. I wanted to go back to something Nelson said though. I'm kind of with him on this. It's like, even if Tesla does dip even further right now, it's like I'm not so sure that it's really a part of my personal investment plan. I get enough exposure to it, and if you want exposure to it easily, just go buy S&P 500 index ETFs, in your retirement funds, your IRAs, your 401ks, whatever. So I already have enough exposure to Tesla in that anyway. When it comes down to my brokerage portfolio, like I'm with Nelson, I have a couple of growth and tech stocks in there, but I'm just focused on income generation and Tesla. I don't need it. I don't need it for that. So I don't know. To me, it's I get my exposure through index ETFs, and after that, I kind of just pay attention to the chaos and the headlines that are going on around it, but I'm not really investing in it.
Ryan, you've been pretty quiet over there. You want to jump in?
I mean, I don't have any Tesla stock, and it's not really in my wheelhouse, this one. So, I mean, I'll defer. I don't have any stake in this one.
No horse in this race is basically what you're saying.
You got it. I mean, I know it's like a very like politically charged and like emotional topic for like a lot of people. It's like a very hot topic, but for me, it's not something that even the vandalism, like I'm not even following. Boomer said it already. I think most of this stuff is just like a blip. We won't even be talking about this in a month or so. It's just making news right now. And that'll be a non-event kind of thing over time. So
yeah, and I've just realized that there's actually we have 4 Canadians and 3 Americans here with us right now, and I just wanted to let our American friends know that this is happening here in Canada too. Boomer, I saw yesterday out in Langley, BC, there was something happening at a Tesla dealership, and then here in Ontario and in Ottawa, there was something happening at a Tesla dealership. And then the other day I had to drive to Montreal to do a delivery, and there was something going on at a Tesla dealership there. So this isn't isolated just to the US. We have our own share of idiots here as well, right? So
I think Canadians are probably more angry because of Musk's association with Trump and the ridiculous tariff war against their closest trading partner. So I think that's why Canadians, I'm surprised it's not more active in Canada than in the US, actually.
I tell you what, they need to get that pipeline going.
I was going to say, further to Boomer's point, I think a lot of Americans are discounting just how angry Canadians are on this whole kind of tariff situation. And yeah, I really don't like to have politics, sort of impact my investing, and I really try to keep all that out of it and really just try to ignore it kind of the best I can. But the Canada is upset about this, and going to have repercussions in the future.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's because I genuinely, and this is going to sound like an arrogant American thing to say. It's just like, unless you live on the northern border of the United States where you're actually neighbors or deal with Canadians frequently, or you go there a lot. Like, I live in the Mid-Atlantic. Excuse me, I live in the Mid-Atlantic. Like, I don't even bat an eye to Canada half the time. So it's like, and I mean that like respectfully. It's like Canadians might be furious with everything right now, but it's like nobody down here even thinks about it.
Of course, no one acknowledges.
Yeah.
And why would they, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually hoping to get Boomer's opinion on this, because I know he exports to the U.S., and I know what he exports has always been a hot topic with regards to tariffs. Are you still there, Boomer?
I'm still here. I'm going to play tennis shortly, and I'm making breakfast. So,
okay. So
I'm making a very healthy peanut butter and toast.
I'm always jealous of Boomer's lifestyle on Twitter. He seems to be having such a grand old time.
Living his best life, right?
Yeah.
Well, you guys will get there when you're. I'm jealous of the fact you guys are going to live for more than 20 years. so there's always a trade-off. So I have a 9:00 tennis match. So I got up early.
Healthy, though, Boomer. You're going to live a lot more than 20 years. You're healthy and active, and
I hope so. Yeah. I get a little angry at tennis, so I could explode there one day too. So I've been dealing with tariffs and border taxes and duties for 25 plus years now. It's extremely annoying. We spend a lot of money on it. It's all political. And so adding this other tariff, we shipped a whole bunch of product down in January ahead of January 20th, because Trump had said the duties is gonna be tariffs on day one, and then on day one he said they're gonna start on whatever he said, February 20th, and then so everybody shipped a whole bunch of stuff down then, and then they came on for a day or two, and then they went off, and now they came back on. And now they're coming on more, are going to come on April 2nd. It's, as you run a business needs certainty, and shipping to the U.S. Is a big part of that section of our business. Most of our, like 70% of our products go to the U.S., and it's you can't properly run a business with uncertainty. And so it's not just us. It's our customers down there. Our customers want to buy, but they can't. So we're shipping now everything until April 2nd. Everything that can get shipped before the tariffs come in will be shipped, and then who knows what's going to happen on April 2nd, whether they're going to happen or get delayed again. And so it's all a panic for the buyers in the U.S. And I don't know who knows it, because if you listen to Trump, and you listen to Lennick, and you listen to alt news sources in the States, and you listen to Levitt, apparently foreign countries are paying the tariff, which is complete crap. The customers in the U.S., the Americans, are paying the tariff, and it's making the product way more expensive for them. But it's just the uncertainty. It makes it really tough for us to operate right now. It's kind of bonkers. That's all the time is being spent on trying to squeeze things in between tariff announcements. One of our friends is a good buddy of mine. Our kids are good friends. He got caught, and he owes I think $25,000 because the shipment was late and ended up on a tariff day, on one of those few days where the tariffs were in. And so, whatever it is what it is, but it makes for awkward conditions to run a business.
Yeah, and it's a complete yo-yo situation where they're on again, off again. Like on again, off again, more than Ross and Rachel, right? Like,
yeah.
And yeah, you're right. We'll see what happens on April 2nd.
I think on April 2nd, the tariffs will go. I think, it's kind of worldwide reciprocal tariffs on that day. I think they will go in place. And I'm not against that. I've always been in favor of the U.S. doing that to countries that, especially, I've always said this against China. Like, China cheats on trade, and they've always cheated on trade. And I've always thought that the Western countries should, we've benefited, our consumer base has benefited by being able to buy an 8-pack of T-shirts at Walmart for $6 versus one T-shirt for $15 that it was before. And so the consumers have benefited, but countries that cheat on trade like that should, they should be dealt with. But I think amongst the Western countries, where trade has made all these countries fabulously wealthy since World War II, I know people hate globalism now, but international trade has made the US and Canada and Western Europe and Japan and all these countries, they're fabulously wealthy. They're the wealthiest countries in the history of the world. And it's all come about from the international order that was built up after World War II. These countries are decimated, and all these Western European countries, they were in ruins 75 years ago. They were in ruins, and their wealth was built up through democratic governments, free enterprise, and trade. And for that to just be kind of swept aside and pretend that it means nothing is, I think shows a real lack of understanding of the history of the economy of the Western world, which drives the rest of the world's economy.
Yeah, I agree. I think where people get or when Trump says the other countries will pay for it, I mean, we know that the consumer ends up paying for it. It gets passed down. I think it's more not with Canada and Mexico, but with China, because we all do know they cheat on trade, is if you put enough tariff pressure on them, they already subsidize the businesses as it are. So to keep those businesses more competitive, in other words, keep offering cheaper and cheaper products, the Chinese government's going to have to subsidize them more. Thus, the Chinese government's paying for the tariff is really where it's coming from. I mean, that's the theory behind it, is that China can only subsidize those factories so much to where they start feeling the pain that they can't subsidize it anymore to get the trade fair. But I don't think between Canada and go ahead.
I was just going to say, if that's the logic, why target Canada and Mexico?
Oh, I agree. I don't understand the originally I just thought the Canada thing was because he didn't like Trudeau. I don't know that there's many Canadians that like Trudeau either. And I just thought it was kind of a posturing or pissing match, I guess you could say, against Canada. I don't think that Canada, us in the United States and Canada should have this extra trade war. I mean, there is tariffs already. I don't think it making them higher. No one's going to win that deal. I mean, David, I've talked about it with the lumber and talked about it with the auto manufacturing. China's the problem. I think we can all agree on that.
Didn't China just impose a huge tariff on Canada too? Like they just announced they did with something. I forget what it was, but like berries or something, or
there's certain food items and stuff. Yeah, there's a bunch of things. Just
canola oil.
Yeah, canola out of the blue. It was China just out of the blue. It's like, okay, we're doing this now. We're like, why? But okay.
And of course, they're doing more experiments in Wuhan lab. So I mean, now you got to deal with that, with a potential lab leak if something happens. So, they're just careless. I mean, they think they are in control of everything, and it's got to stop. I think the Western countries need to put pressure on them, and I agree with you guys.
They're also a very, very nationalistic population. If you like, go post something anti-China on Twitter, and the hate you'll get from, I'm not sure if they're bots or just their people. They're very nationalistic because they've been raw by the Communist Party for 3 generations now, or 4 generations, and it's very I don't know. Other than the fact that all the millionaires want to get the hell out of the country and move to other countries, such as here in Australia and the US, but they're a very nationalistic population, and so it's, I think they can get a lot of support in fights against other countries. I'm gonna semi sign off. I'm gonna keep listening while I drive, but it's a great conversation, guys, and I will listen in while I drive, and hope you guys keep entertaining me.
Okay, thank you for joining in, Boomer. Good luck playing tennis. Make sure you stretch before you start running around.
Stretching is too hard. It hurts.
Yeah, well, you want to know what hurts a lot more is a pulled hamstring.
Yeah, okay.
That would hurt. Or a groin.
Yeah,
that'd be even worse.
Oh.
So
I see we lost Ryan as well.
I was going to bring up too, with United States and Canada relations. I think if they restart the Keystone Pipeline, get things going, I think that'll benefit, some of the pipeline companies, MPLX, possibly Enbridge. I mean, Enbridge has acquired a few places in Ohio, actually. So I see their logo around, strutting around. So I think if they start the pipeline again, I mean, I just did a video on EPD, MPLX, and Energy Transfer, why I've been buying them, and the free cash flow that's going on. I think there's opportunities with Enbridge, and I know you guys like Enbridge if you're from Canada, especially for the dividend growth and the free cash flow that you're getting with passive income.
Yeah, definitely. So as Nelson and Boomer know, and maybe you guys have heard, probably not, but it looks like we're getting an election call today. So we actually will get to go to the polls and vote for a new prime minister again. And obviously the conservatives are very key on pushing the pipelines, not just the Keystone pipeline, but Northern Gateway and Nelson, even the other pipelines. They finally maybe talking about doing that west to east. Probably not, no fault of Trudeau's government, because decades of governments not ever building it. It should have been done 40, 50 years ago. So maybe now we will finally get it. And there obviously is a lot of opportunity in Canada for that pipeline and oil and natural gas infrastructure to be built out. Nelson, you want to add into any of that?
Yeah. Sure. Politically, in Canada for sort of most of the last, call it 20 years, the appetite for pipelines outside of the oil producing areas has been quite low, because the sort of attitude is that, the places that don't produce oil, they don't really feel like they're getting the benefit from that. But now with the trade wars, tariffs, etc., the political kind of will is a lot better than what it was before. And the hope is that, kind of Canada, we can strike while it's hot and sort of get these pipelines that would help kind of Canada keep more of its oil inside of Canada and not have to export it to the United States or to export it to Asia or other places that also need oil, that we haven't had the pipeline capacity to get it to the coast in order to get it out.
Yeah, Europe, right? Europe's been begging for decades for Canada to sell its oil and natural gas and LNG. So
yeah, and Europe gets it from Russia, which is not the trading partner that they want to do business with at this point.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I think that LNG, I mean, all energies are doing well right now, but I think LNG's the fuel of the future. I mean, with all these AI data centers, quantum computing, everything else, until they come up with another way to power them, I think natural gas is going to make the most sense to produce electricity for them. I think it's going to do very well in the future. I don't know what your guys' thought is on natural gas.
I think that'll be huge. I think actually the state of Pennsylvania and out by the Warren area in Ohio, that's going to be a gold mine. I mean, they've been discussing that. I really think that that's going to be huge and could help with the United States and or Canada be energy independent as a nation. I think that would be huge.
Yeah, and I think the midstreamers too, the midstream companies are the ones that are going to benefit probably the most from it.
yeah, we're also quite.
Yeah, there's a Canadian. Sorry, Dave. I'll just be quick here. There's a Canadian IPP, independent power producer. It's called Capital Power, and their growth strategy over most of the last 10 years has been to acquire mostly natural gas-fired power plants, and they can do those at sort of like 5 to 7x EBITDA multiples, which I think is quite attractive. And it pays, I think right now, about a 5, trades at a very reasonable valuation. I think that that's a great way to sort of play that trend. And I agree. I think the natural gas trend is not something that's going to sort of peter out in the next couple of years. We need power, and natural gas is a relatively clean way to get it.
Yeah, I was just going to mention.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, Nelson. I was just going to sort of add to that yes, LNG natural gas is a great way, but also here in Ontario, and I'm sure many places in the U.S. and other parts of Canada where nuclear power is very much considered a clean and efficient energy. And then also Ontario, Quebec, I believe New Brunswick, BC, all very heavily into hydroelectric as well, right? Like we call it Hydro One, or in Alberta, or sorry, BC, it's called BC Hydro and Hydro Quebec, right? So that's literally the name of our power companies are based on hydroelectricity. So I can't see that going anywhere anytime soon either, right? It's very clean and efficient way of producing power. But I definitely agree with what you were mentioning, Jesse, the need for this increased power with all of the AI and quantum computing, and who knows what the future is going to hold, right? So I'll throw it back to you, Jesse. I know you had something to say there.
Yeah, I think nuclear would be the way to go. I just don't know. We'd have to really build up the technology. I know that Microsoft was actually looking at redoing 3 Mile Island. I think reactor number 7, totally redoing it. But it's got a lot of opposition. I mean, I know 3 Mile Island carries, what happened with it, but the technology in nuclear is a lot better now. I think it would be great to do more nuclear. I know that they're experimenting now with the hydrogen power, which I think that's a long way off. I mean, there's the companies that are doing it, they're actually already running out of money. Even with the Department of Energy loans, they just can't get there. And some of them are nuclear companies, but yeah, until we can get nuclear going and people get around nuclear, I'd see the only option that's in play right now is natural gas. I think nuclear is another 10 to 15 years away to really start building up the power plants.
Yeah, and I was going to mention the safety with nuclear as well, as you alluded to 3 Mile Island, or I know some of us here are old enough to remember what happened in the mid 80s in the Soviet Union, which actually was Ukraine, right?
Yeah, Chernobyl.
Chernobyl. Yeah. I think Chernobyl it was so far behind technology wise that they just ignored the warning signs. Now, whether they purposely did it or not, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean,
hello, are still here? I got cut out of my own live stream there for a second. My internet failed me.
Yeah, and I was going to bring up too with Russia, the Soviet Union. Look at how outdated their military is too. I mean, there's pretty much a standpoint in Ukraine right now against technology from the West. Giving Ukrainian soldiers like drones and such equipment. I mean, I think just Russia's just a dump and just way behind with a lot of technology, and they're careless. So that's another issue. I'm pretty sure, isn't the European Union they have a lot of nuclear powered. I know they do really well with waste to energy facilities. We need to start doing that again, is actually burning garbage for energy. That it's so well regulated. I know in Japan, they're burning garbage and, actually generating a profit with it. And extracting, minerals and stuff from burning stuff. And the only byproducts, it appears to be CO2 and water, the way they filter everything. That's some things that I think we need to do in the United States as well, is integrate that. And I think Elon really emphasized nuclear power in that large X podcast, and him and Trump are button heads a little bit too, versus, Elon wants to be a little bit more green, and, Trump's like, well, this and that, but, so I thought that was a very interesting debate they had with each other, because, I find, Elon is not going to stand down to his opinions or his facts. And I thought that was very interesting, but he really did mention nuclear power. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he really emphasized that as well.
Yeah, and what he's referring to, though, is not the big nuclear power plants that we're used to with the big cooling towers. It's that small reactor SMRs, where they're about the size of like a water tower, and you can put them in a neighborhood, and they'll power somewhere around like 150,000 homes. Where Elon wants to push that too, is you can't control the energy that comes out of them, so there's a lot of energy wasted. So that's where the Tesla packs would come in place. That why it's producing the energy, it can store that battery and then have it there for when the power grid needs more, and then when the power grid doesn't, it can store the money. So that he was referring to some nuclear, but not like the big plants that we think of.
Right. I think I think you're right.
If I jump in and just switch it to like how I think about it from like an investing standpoint, I mean, I personally love investing in the energy industry. I think it's very evident that it might be one of the safest and steadiest long-term industries you can invest in. The demand for growth in the long term is tremendous. There's not enough energy now. There's the amount that we're going to need in the futures through the roof, and most of these large oil companies also own most of the natural gas assets. So, and between the United States and Canada, there's more than enough resources to go around for God knows how many decades into the future. So they all usually give pretty solid dividends and have low volatility. So, I mean, it's just like, it's a no-brainer for me from an industry standpoint as an investor. Like, hey, if you're just looking for steady, stable income, the energy industry is one of the best ones you're going to be able to go for. And because of the low volatility, it really works well for option strategies too. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
And I think I'll see in my video yesterday, I'm pretty sure MPLX in the past 5 years actually beat the S&P 500, which is kind of crazy. I think they did, and I think was it maybe Energy Transfer also, but one of them did, and I think it was MPLX.
If you add in their I think with the dividends on top of their just general appreciation, they're just like they're juggernauts. They're awesome.
Yeah, ET did. If like Alexander said, if you roll the dividends into it, but I mean, even take like Oxy. You know, I mean, they're trading for, or their stock right now that pays a dividend is less PE ratio than the S&P. And every year it prints money. So I agree, Alexander. I mean, there's some good value in energy.
I've been selling calls and puts back and forth on Oxy for the last few months, and it's been outstanding.
Yeah, it's a great stock. Plus, plus Uncle Warren Buffett loves it. So what's not to like about it, right?
Yeah, it goes down 5% one week, up 5% the next week, blah blah blah. Even if it's like a steady trend down or up, like it's low volatility, and it makes it easy to buy and sell like that. It's great stuff.
Yeah,
and you get a dividend on top of it. So why not?
You do. Yep, you got a dividend. It's great for options, especially if you're doing the wheel strategy. It's probably one of the better stocks out there.
Yep. I've been doing that on both Oxy and ExxonMobil recently, and it's been awesome extra income.
Yeah, Exxon's a good dividend hiker too. So them and Chevron. So, and those two companies are starting to adapt. They're not just oil. They're starting to adapt to the changes. So, you know, that's a successful company, is adapting to change. Unlike, you know, Blockbuster or Sears, they never adapted. And these companies that are adapting, they're standing strong. So I have to give kudos to those guys as companies.
Yeah, their earnings growth has just been incredible, and on top of that, they have so much cash. Their cash flow it's crazy how many billions in cash flow they generate each quarter. So, I mean, at any point in time in the future, if they need, like you said, if they need to adapt and change and alter their core strategy, they have the liquidity to be able to do so. So, I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, I believe didn't Exxon just get some leases for liquid natural gas, I believe, and they're also
I think they already have
experimenting with hydrogen too.
Yeah, I think those huge oil companies like, you know, the Exxons, the Chevrons, Totals, BPs, all those massive global energy companies, I think they have obviously their core operations, but I think they have their hands dipped into every other possible energy or potential future energy, you know, source. They're trying to figure out what they can bolt on in the future, you know, at any point in time. I think.
I'm going to switch lanes here for a minute because Darth mentioned Sears and being adaptable. And so I know Nelson will know this story. Here in Canada, another department store similar to Sears, the Hudson's Bay Company. Hudson's Bay was incorporated on May 2nd, 1670. Yeah, I said that correctly. 1670. So I'm sure by far the oldest company in Canada, and most likely the oldest company in North America, and one of the oldest companies in the world. I know there's Japanese.
Did we lose Dave?
Oh no,
Poor Dave, you got cut off in the middle of his story.
Now I really want to. I'm gonna have to go Google it now.
Yeah.
So
We lost
I was gonna,
Dave telling the story.
That's not the same people who are in every airport in America. Hudson News or no? That's not.
Yeah.
so I was going to bring up too a REIT that I own, Getty Realty. They own like a lot of. I'm pretty sure they're a landlord for a lot of gas stations, and it'll be interesting if they convert to charging stations, because a lot of these charging stations are starting to be at gas stations, and they're trying to have a hybrid a little bit with that. That's going to be interesting too. And again, hopefully I'm correct with that, but the way things are changing, these companies, these REITs, these businesses are starting to adapt to changes. And Getty Realty has been really good with dividend hikes, and it's a pretty cheap REIT. So I've been capitalizing on that one for a while, because REITs have not done well since the pandemic, and I've been capitalizing on REITs. I'm a big income investor, and kind of like a hybrid income, value, dividend growth. But in high yield investing, but that's one just to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, because right now when gas stations down, at least down here in the Mid-Atlantic, I haven't seen that many of them do the hybrid thing, but I've been thinking what you said for a while. It's like, when are all these gas stations just going to start to put in a couple charging stations here and there on their property? And the only one that actually I see it is I don't know if you guys are familiar with Wawa, but it's similar to it's like a very much nicer 7-Eleven. It's a
Yep.
convenience store that also has gas, and it's a really nice one in Mid-Atlantic. But the Wawas are the only ones I've seen. A lot of them are having Tesla chargers in their parking lots now. But all the other little standard gas stations along the way, I haven't seen it yet. But it's gonna have to happen in the future at some point. So you'd imagine it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only you're exactly right, Alex, that it will happen in the future, just a matter of time. And for these gas stations, putting in a couple of Tesla chargers, that's going to cost them, maybe $10,000 or $20,000, which is not a huge investment in terms of, Darth. I know you're talking about the Getty, that gas station REIT, if you own the gas station and you're willing to spend the money to have the pumps and everything, all the money that goes into it, bolting on a couple of chargers is not a big deal. So they'll eventually do it once they see the demand is there. Up here in Canada, we don't have as many electric cars because the climate is nastier, and that's tougher on electric cars. But even up here, you're starting to see it at gas stations, but also hotels and shopping centers and things like that, where it's like, hey, stay at our hotel and charge your Tesla for free overnight.
Hey, Darth, going back onto REITs, REITs have kind of, I really thought they would take off. Of course, the interest rates help, but I'll tell you, there's two more that I would keep on my watch list, and that's VICI, which they own casino properties, triple net leases. Basically, if talk about the house wins, they win. And they own properties from both MGM and Caesars, which is crazy since they were a subsidiary of Caesars. So they're getting rent no matter how the casino does. So even in a bad economic time, they're still collecting rent, and it being triple net. And then the other one is MPW. They've made a turnaround now with that whole lawsuit with Stewart Health and everything else. And I don't know if you've paid attention to their price lately, but they were down in that 325 range, and they're back up to 6. I know they're going to hold off. It sounds like from their last call that they're going to hold off on increasing that dividend again. I think just to kind of get the books straightened out and get some more forward cash flow and stuff going. But those are two REITs that actually look like they're making some movement.
Yeah, that thing with Stewart
This
Health.
is Lenny. He approves of all the REIT talk.
Yeah, with Stewart Health, man, what a mess that hospital system is. I mean, they got a lot of issues, but MPW has what 400 plus properties internationally. I mean, there's a demand
Yeah.
for acute care. People are getting sicker. That's one issue. I mean, I've considered maybe buying 200 shares in them since I started my travel nursing gig again, just for play money. But I think there's a lot of potential, and they're not going anywhere. And Omega Health Care investors, I mean, they haven't hiked their dividend in a while. Care Trust REIT is another one with the healthcare that I've been buying. CTREs is the symbol, but yeah, Vici Properties, and I've taken Latin, so it drives me nuts. It's wiki is the proper term, but it's called Vici by people. That's a lot of potential. So the experiential REITs like them and EPR Properties. I bought EPR Properties when the pandemic hit and they suspended their dividend for a while. I mean, they got hit hard. I'm hoping they make a comeback. They're starting to get rid of AMC places and starting to acquire more experiential places, ski resorts and other places. So I'm kind of excited for them to make a comeback as well.
When you guys buy REITs, are you looking more for the current dividend or the current distribution, or kind of the ability to grow that distribution? I've kind of gone a little bit more towards the growth potential, looking for stuff with like maybe a 50 or 60% payout ratio rather than, in the 80, 90 range. I think that kind of long term, that's going to work out better for me. But I'm curious what you guys have to say about that.
Jesse, do you want to go first?
Yeah, no, I don't worry too much about the dividend payout now because I'm going to drip it anyways. I'm more looking at the long term potential of the growth and what's there. So, I mean, obviously, dividend's important. You want to make sure that they got the cash to pay out the dividend every year, and you'd like to see the dividend go up. But I like to see appreciation of the REIT go up as well. So, I mean, if I like something, if the dividend's 3%, but there's another one that's 12%. I'm not just going to go with the 12% one just because it's a 12% dividend. I'm going to drip it for the long haul and go for the appreciation. Darth kind of is a little bit on both sides, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I like the high income. I mean, I don't have time to own individual real estate, so I like to diversify in buying REITs. But I do think dividend growth and appreciation are very important because I have kind of like a hybrid of the REITs that I own. Prologis, which is one of the biggest industrial REITs out there. I have American Tower. I have Rexford. I'm not a fan of Stag. Its dividend growth is not very good. Maybe I'll rebuy it, but it's just terrible. I mean, by the time I'm 1,000, maybe they'll hike their dividend by 1 cent. But I like realty income. As long as the funds for operation are solid, there's revenue increases. Like for example, NNN REIT, that one is one of my favorite high yielders. A little bit slower dividend growth, but I like some of the really good growers as well because long term wise, everybody wants a raise at work. So dividend growth is very important. So I like to diversify. Like I'll have medical REITs, have industrial REITs, triple net lease REITs, experiential REITs. I think it's important to diversify, but there are so many good REITs out there that I can't really say no to. So, but dividend growth is very important. I'm hoping that I can get to maybe 100, 200 shares of Prologis. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Prologis, but they are one of my favorite REITs out there for dividend growth and dividend income and passive income, especially since I can't really do real estate, with owning a YouTube channel, being very active, travel nursing, doing all this stuff. I can't do that. So this is why I invest in REITs.
I actually want to jump in here before my internet cuts out again, and I want to get Nelson's opinion on some Canadian REITs being RioCan and Smart Center. Because I know, Nelson, you follow things like that quite closely. So what do you see happening with those two?
Sure. So for people who are unfamiliar, both RioCan and Smart Centers are retail REITs. They own kind of open air shopping centers. So instead of a mall, it's basically just a mall without an enclosed roof. Is a little bit more diversified than Smart Centers. Smart Centers is about 35% Walmart anchored or shadow anchored, as they call it. So a lot of the rent is coming from Walmart, but on the plus side, Walmart attracts a lot of foot, which kind of increases the rents for services that are in these developments. So in terms of 6-7% dividends, RioCan's got a lower payout ratio, 60-65% of FFO, where Smart Centers is a little higher, and Smart Centers is probably more aggressive on the expansion side. They're sort of a developer / real estate or REIT, where RioCan's more of a REIT that will develop a little bit as needed. So in terms of which one I prefer, it's RioCan. It's one with the lower payout ratio to grow that distribution over time. And as you know, you guys were saying, distribution growth is important, dividend growth is important. And I think ultimately a REIT that increases earnings over time, increases FFO over time, and that's what we should be looking for. And then dividends ultimately come from that. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I try to think about REITs, the only thing that would make me weary about investing in a REIT, because like you said, most of them are pretty much easy money over the long term. The only thing that would make me nervous to invest in a REIT is depending on the industry it serves, whether it's retail or restaurants or, like you said, casinos, and the REITs serve pretty much every single industry. The only thing that would make me nervous is if the underlying industry that it serves has inherent weakness or doesn't scream massive growth in the long term. Otherwise, like you said, most of them have these leases that are set up to increase along with inflation and just have their natural growth. It's easy money income. I love REITs. I also have Prologis in my portfolio, and a few others as well. And yeah, that's the only thing that would make me nervous to invest in a REIT, is if the underlying industry it serves has some sort of inherent weakness in it.
Yeah, that's office.
I would agree
right
with that. Right? Yeah, office space definitely. I think Duke Realty is one of them that they're actually converting a lot of their properties into hotels. You guys bring up. I
was just going to say the last comment in the on the stream space, Extra Space Storage is opening up in Boston. I also own Extra Space Storage in my portfolio too. And they've been awesome for me as well.
Yeah. Storage is good. Extra Space and Public Storage are amazing. I know you guys brought up Prologis. It's not a REIT, it's just a stock, but I don't know if have you guys heard of Applied Digital?
Yes, I've heard of them.
So basically what they do is they're building data centers. They've got two now. One of their tenants is Microsoft. And I believe the other one that they're in talks with, they haven't announced it yet, but the rumor is it's Amazon. But they're basically instead of building warehouse space, they're building full data centers, putting the racking in, everything, managing it. So that kind of be interesting to see how they do over time, because obviously, we discussed earlier, data centers are where it's at, whether it's be cloud or AI or quantum computing or everything else.
Yeah, if you listen to any major tech CEO, it's like they couldn't be flashing the sirens bright enough for data centers for the future. And I'm sorry if my child's making a lot of noise in the background, but he's having a grand old time.
But I mean, never noticed them at all.
The data centers are just going to be huge going forward. And there's a couple of them out there. There's Digital Realty, DLR. There's Equinix, EQIX. There's a few of them that are just if you want guaranteed income for the long term, find a good entry point on one of those and don't ever have to look at it ever again.
I agree.
Yeah.
In fact, you were talking about the warning signs going off from CEOs. The Chat GPT, they announced that they can't go any farther. They cannot make Chat GPT.
Oh, he froze.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if it was my internet or.
Yeah, you said something about Chat CPT, and that was it. I was going to bring up storage places. I also own CubeSmart. That's one of my favorite storage REITs. So they've been building like crazy, especially in Ohio. There's a lot of CubeSmart facilities as well.
So CubeSmart is just like another storage space facility?
Yeah. I mean, you can literally see it off highways. CUBE is the symbol. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah, storage space is definitely needed, right?
But I think extra storage space is the big one. I think that's probably the mothership one. I have national storage affiliates too in my dividend portfolio as well.
You're a REIT machine over there, my man.
I'm well diversified. I mean, I have a lot of stocks. I mean, I pretty much created my own ETF and M1 Finance. So, I mean, it's doing pretty well. And I got out of Yield Max at the right time. I mean, when it was good, but it's not sustainable in a market that's here or a market that's here. And people need to understand that. And you have people that think it's going to do well, but those synthetic calls, I mean, they're just getting killed. And then you're seeing the weekly pay ETFs with Roundhill. I don't know how good that'll be, coming up. I mean, I'm just going to sit and wait. But yeah, I like the REITs for income. I mean, I have really good dividend growth companies as well. Lowe's, Home Depot. Oh, Jesse, you stopped right at. Oh, never mind.
Nope, he's gone.
I'll wait till he gets back and I'll let him have his say. But it's good to be diversified. I like high income, but also dividend growth always wins in the long run. People need to realize that. That's where the money's at. Because if you're making $100 a month and it's just staying there with like AGNC and you're getting Realty Income that's hiking its dividend or Prologis that's hiking its dividend, you're going to win the long run with the dividend growth stocks.
Yeah, it's nice that it's really great once you have a well diversified and balanced income base. It allows you to be able to take a chance on a small portion of your portfolio in a high yield, position or something like that, and generate a little bit of extra income, knowing that, even if it has a short term depreciation of asset value, that it's not going to make a blip on your radar. So once you have that foundation built, absolutely feel free to take some little extra risk in your portfolio on some of these higher income positions for sure.
So the way M1 Finance may make some adaptations is you can have certain pies distributing dividends and certain pies that may happen. So what I'm going to be doing is my curve yield, the yield, or the Neos, and all those other ones that are pretty hot right now, the Rex shares. I'm going to use that income to buy some of my high yielders, and I'm going to use the high yielders income to buy my dividend growth stock. So that's kind of going to be the plan if M1 Finance implements that. I'll show you guys like the master plan that I may do with it. I think that may have some serious potential, but we'll see if M1 Finance allows it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
We may have SE
work with
here.
me. I know that.
There he is.
Here we go.
All right, so you like cut off right when you said about Chat CPT, like it couldn't keep up or something. Yeah.
Chat GPT. They're saying that they can't do any more learning with it until they have more space and more storage. So they're out.
And he froze again. Well, guys, you know what? As you can see, we're having challenges with our internet. I think I'm cutting in and out because, I'm losing connection.
I think I lost connection again. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay.
I was just gonna say you
Okay.
were frozen and
Yeah, the internet's acting funky. But yeah, so even Elon said with Gronk, he can't get any more until he adds to his.
and there he goes again.
Okay,
Okay,
I think
you know what, guys?
that's my time to throw in the flag for myself. Anyway, it's been fun, gentlemen. I appreciate the time and the conversation.
Yeah, I
mean,
was
I
just
can,
saying,
I
gonna
can
say
stay
this.
on.
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for
I
putting
can
it
stay
together.
on if you need to. I was going to say, if you guys brought up the Canada beating the U.S. in hockey, I would just freeze myself and not say anything.
Yeah, well, it's not the first time. It won't be the last time that we beat you at hockey. So,
Well, hopefully, I mean, the United States, we value American football. It's like the highest priority right now. I mean, with college football, it's starting to get crazy. But hopefully, you know, hockey, the United States starts getting up there. But I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of like the United States in soccer. I mean, I like hockey. I mean, I wish I could have played it back in the day. You know, I like the movies, the Mighty Ducks and stuff, but hopefully, you know, see what happens in the future with the United States. As long as, you know, Russia's not winning, that's the important thing.
Exactly.
yeah, I was just gonna ask, what did you think about Trump and Putin talking about having a U.S. versus Russia hockey game?
I think that's, for my honest opinion, I think that's better than us launching nukes at each other. Just to be honest.
Okay, very very fair point. I tend to agree.
I only think you know, countries should compete in athletics, and that's the only time they should compete. Maybe, you know, academics or athletics, but that's my philosophy, is that's the only time they should compete instead of war. But let's just hope that we're standing, you know, in the next 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys, you know what? As you have all seen, we've been having some internet issues here. This has been an incredible conversation. I want to thank you all so much for joining me here this afternoon. Thanks to Boomer for jumping in here, and Alex for being here, and Ryan as well. But yes, thanks for you guys for coming on and sharing your thoughts. And any final words before we sign off?
Hey, thanks, Dave.
Hey,
Yeah,
thanks for having us
putting
on.
us on.
Yeah, I'll drink a White Claw next time. We get more people.
Yeah.
I will do my promise that I will drink a White Claw. Ohio State won the Natty about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I was in a drunk chat with some friends and said, yeah, next time they win the Natty, I will drink a White Claw. So I'll make it happen.
Okay, well, we're going to hold you to that, Darth.
I will do it. Painfully, I will do it.
Okay,
Thanks,
again,
guys.
thank you guys so much for being here.
All right.
And if you're
Thanks, guys.
following on Twitter, make sure to, or on X, make sure to give everyone a follow. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and we